The Beit Ha-Mikdash wasn't just a building. It was, in fact, our sight, our vision, the very eyes of Am Yisrael. And what happened when it was destroyed? Literally, we went blind. Think about it for a second. Have you ever been in total darkness? Let's say in your house, and it's nighttime, you have lights on, and all of a sudden there's a total blackout in the city. Total blackout, complete black in the house. Your whole house goes dark. Everything feels a little bit unfamiliar. Even it's your own house. And it can still be kind of weird because you may not know where everything is. And then why? It's your own house. You should be familiar with it. But no, all of a sudden it's dark and things are different. So Rebbe Nachman says that that's exactly what happened to us. The Churban, the destruction of the Beit Ha-Mikdash, of our holy temple, wasn't just a loss of a building. It was a loss of vision. We literally went blind. As the prophet Yechezkel says, the Mikdash was the delight of our eyes. And when it burned, our eyes closed. They went blind. And the Shechinah, she still weeps. She still cries all the time, every night. Chazal say that she's at the Kotel and she weeps. Rachel weeps for her children, refusing to be comforted. Rebbe Nachman teaches us that those tears darken our sight. And we're going to explain tonight how that happens. Every tear from Rachel weakens the light of the eyes, weakens our own eyesight, our own vision. And of course, the temple, the Beit Ha-Mikdash, the eye of Yisrael, the eyes of Yisrael remains in ruins. But there is hope. Thank God there's hope. Rebbe Nachman explains, as we're going to see this tonight, there is a Tzaddik in the aspect of Yosef, a Tzaddik. The beauty, the splendor, the grace of the entire world, the eyes of the world. And when that Tzaddik is revealed, the eyes of the world are opened. And the eyes of the Jewish people are also opened. And the light that happens, that enters into our eyes at that point, defeats the fire. And as a result, the house, the Beit Ha-Mikdash, is repaired. And it's a surprising thing, in fact. It's not about politics. It's not even about constructing a building. It's really about something very, very simple. And we're going to learn tonight what that very simple thing is. Because the essence of that simplicity is what will actually rebuild the Beit Ha-Mikdash. So tonight we're going to open up Rebbe Nachman's Likutei Moharan II, part 2, and we're going to look at Torah Samech Zion 67. We're not going to do the whole thing, it's just too long. Instead, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to try to do, is to jump from hill to hill, from topic to topic, and we'll skip a lot of different topics along the way, so there may be some holes in what we're going to say tonight. But hopefully the gist of it we'll be able to understand and we'll be able to internalize and be able to use. So welcome tonight to Shoemaker workshop number 52. This is the third day of the month of Av, Tafshin Pei Hey, and I'm Hoshea Allen. Tonight's shiur is dedicated to the refuah shlema of Amos Chaim ben Fortuna, Tehillah bat Leah, and Eliezer ben Etya. So let's go to our notes. Hopefully you have them, and if you don't, you can turn to a sefer, or if you want, you can see this online. You can go to, for example, sefaria.org, I think it is, and you can look up in the section on Chassidut and find the sefer under Breslov called Likutei Moharan and go to part 2, Torah number 67. Again, these are just spots. These are not all the different things that we're going to look at tonight, all the different sections, the different quotations. They're not all together in one place in that Torah. The Torah goes on for a number of pages. They're just spot quotations here and there in order for me to try to create a thread. So we'll read the first notes, the first paragraph in your notes. Ki yesh ananin dimechasyan al eina. That's Aramaic. And it says that there are clouds that cover the eye. Clouds that cover our eye. Obviously he's not talking physically, but something spiritual. What does he mean? Let's go on. V'zeh b'chinat, as it says in Kohelet. Kohelet, chapter 12, verse 2, in part says, V'shavu he'avim achar agashem, which is a strange statement actually, but it says, literally in translation, it says, the clouds return after the rain. Well, wait a second. Don't clouds appear before the rain, and then when the rain comes, the clouds disappear? But here, it's the other way around. The pasuk says that the clouds come back after the rain. So Chazal, obviously, we're dealing with Kohelet, right? We're dealing with a very deep book of deep spiritual wisdom. We call it Kabbalah. But this is the wisdom of Shlomo HaMelech. It's not plain and simple. So Chazal say what this actually means. And they say so in Masechet page 151 on the flip side, on on Amud Beit. But anyway, which we're going to see here in a second. Rebbe Nachman says, what is this? What are these clouds that return after the rain? He says, Zeh me'or einayim. This is the illumination of the eyes. This is what the pasuk is talking about. The pasuk is talking about not the rain, not the weather. It's not a meteorological comment. It's a comment about our eyes. What does that really mean? And even then, he's not really talking about it physical eyes. He's talking about spiritual eyes, the ability to really see and comprehend things. We might say seichel, comprehension, wisdom. That's what he says. Sheholek achar habechia. He says that our eyes, or you might say the illumination of our eyesight, goes away after crying. What does that mean? Let's go on. Kamosh amru rabotinu zichram livracha, like Chazal say in Masechet Shabbos, which I alluded to a minute ago. Let's see what they say. She'al yedei habechi, through crying, holek umistalek me'or einayim. It's a very profound idea. It says through crying, we actually lose the light of our eyes. We lose eyesight by crying. Our eyes don't function the way they used to. We don't see as well as we used to. And that's the meaning of Vishavu ha'avim, that the clouds return, achar hagasham. What are the clouds? The clouds is something that's obscuring our vision, our spiritual vision. And that clouding, that cloudiness that goes over our eyes on a spiritual way happens after the rain. What's the rain? Is our tears. That's what Kotel is trying to tell us. He's trying to tell us that when we cry, we lose spiritual vision. So you might say, well, why cry? That's kind of a dumb thing to do, isn't it? Well, we have to cry at times. We have to mourn. But the point is that in so doing, it's an aspect of a loss of vision. There's a connection between losing spiritual vision and tears and crying and mourning. So now we're in the 9 days, right? We're in the 9 days. This is a very intense period of time. And right after Shabbos, on Yom Rishon, on Sunday, is Tisha B'Av. A day almost every one of us dreads, right? I was like, oh, great, Tisha B'Av. Oh, nobody looks forward to Tisha B'Av. It's a very intense day. It's the most intense, you might say, sad, introspective day in the entire year. And it has a lot to do with the loss of our vision. All right, so that's the first little section. We have to keep those thoughts in mind. Tears lead to loss of vision, and really has to do with eventually we go blind. Spiritually, we go blind. We go blind. Now, Rebbe Nachman talks more in that Torah, which we can't get into all the different aspects of it, but he says crying is also an aspect of the sun setting, and the sun sets in the west, right? The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And he goes into all the different aspects. Now, the Shechinah, if you think about the actual Beit Ha-Mikdash itself, it was oriented east to west. And the Kodesh Kodashim, the Holy of Holies, was in the west side, meaning that the Shechinah, the divine presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, was in the west of the Beit Ha-Mikdash. So let's now explore that a little bit and see what more Rebbe Nachman has to tell us about that, because there's a very profound idea about the west. The west. Let's see what he says. V'zeh b'chinat Kotel Ma'aravi. This is an aspect, this whole topic that we're discussing now, about loss of sight, the Shechinah, crying, the Beit Ha-Mikdash, going blind. He says it's all an aspect of the Kotel, of the Western Wall. Shesham ha-Shechinah bocha umiyalelet al Churban Beit Ha-Mikdash. There, the Shechinah, she cries and she wails, she howls and wails regarding or about the destruction of the temple. That's where she does it. She does it right there at the Beit Ha-Mikdash. She does it right there at the Kotel. When we go to the Kotel, we need to understand where we're going. Some people, chas v'chalila, we would treat the Kotel as some unholy, profane place. No. The Kotel is a very special place. It's the place where the Shechinah resides. And what does she do there? She cries. She cries day in and day out, predominantly during the nighttime, which we're going to get to. But that's why it's called the Western Wall. It's called the Western Wall. Let's go on. It says, Ki b'marav, in the west. As we already said, remember the Shechinah resided in the west in the Beit Ha-Mikdash. So in the west, there, Rachel mivaka al baneha. Now that's a pasuk from Yirmiyahu, chapter 31. That Rachel, that she cries regarding her children because they're not there. And she refuses to be comforted. Now let's just take a look at the Rashi Tevot of that phrase. Rachel mivaka al baneha. That Rachel cries or weeps regarding her children. We have a resh, we have a mem, we have an ayin, and we have a beit. If you take those 4 letters, the Rashi Tevot of those 4 words, what does it spell? You have to rearrange them to be a little bit clever here. This is brought out in the writings of the Arizal. And of course, Rabbi Nachman alludes to it here. It spells the word Marav, west. And so this is how we learn out that the western wall is the place where Rachel is, and that's where she's weeping every night for the past, 2,000, almost 2,000 years. She weeps in the Marav, in the west. And that's the meaning of Rachel mivaka al baneha. Now, the fact that she's weeping there at the Kotel ha-Ma'aravi, at the western wall, tells us something very profound. It means that it's not a stam place. When you go to the Kotel, you're not just going to an outside shul. You're not going to experience some like a great time, say a party. The Kotel Ma'aravi is an incredibly special place of tremendous kedusha and tremendous pain all at the same time. Yes, simcha, because we have returned to the Kotel. We're able to be there with Rachel. And we're able to mourn with Rachel and to cry with Rachel. It's also simcha, but it's also tremendous sadness and mourning as well. Not sadness in a bad, depressing way, but sadness because this is what we have to go through right now. So that's the aspect of the Shechinah. The aspect of the Shechinah ties to the west, ties to the setting of the sun, which is in the west, which ties to crying, which ties to loss of eyesight, which ties to the idea that the Jewish people have, in a sense, become spiritually blind. I hate to say these things, but this is what Rebbe Nachman says. This is why people move on from these videos when they watch them on YouTube, because they're intense teachings. And people like to hear happy things, and I often bring them things that not always so happy, but this is what Rebbe Nachman teaches. If we're going to learn Rebbe Nachman, if we're going to learn Breslov, if we want to learn more about what Likutei Moharan is all about, we have to learn all of Breslov, not just little bits and pieces of it all. All right, let's go to the third paragraph. Ki Shabbos, or Shabbat. Now, there's a lot here missing in our notes, but understand that there's a lot in that Torah that Rebbe Nachman talks about Shabbat, but we're just kind of cutting through. Again, we're just leaping from top of a hill to the next top of the next hill. Ki Shabbos meir laha Beit Ha-Mikdash. What an idea. Shabbos illuminates the temple. Going on. Ki Ha-Mikdash hu gamkein bechinat einayim. This is a profound idea, which is we introduced it earlier, but now we see it inside of Rebbe Nachman. He says that the Beit Ha-Mikdash is an aspect of eyes. And where does the eyes get its light from? From Shabbos. So we have 2 new ideas connected together. That the Beit Ha-Mikdash are eyes, they give vision to the Jewish people, and the vision or the illumination of the eyes comes literally from the Kedusha of Shabbos. So in a sense, what Rebbe Nachman is alluding to here is that we have allowed ourselves to have a diminishment in the Kedusha of Shabbos. Then that's also brought about the destruction of the Beit Ha-Mikdash, was a reduction in the Kedusha of Shabbos. If you go through the Torah, again, I'm not going to go through it here, but B'ezrat Hashem, you'll have a few days, and then maybe on Tisha B'Av, you can maybe learn this Torah, because it would be shy to learn it on Tisha B'Av in more detail. But Rebbe Nachman explains that if you go through the Torah, you look at almost every time that Moshe Rabbeinu talks about building the Mishkan, for example, he always talks about Shabbos. Why does he always link these 2 ideas together? What does Shabbos have to do with the Beit Ha-Mikdash? Or in that case, it was called the Mishkan. Well, because Rebbe Nachman is telling us that Shabbos is the light of the eyes of the Beit Ha-Mikdash. That's what he's trying to tell us. And that's why Shabbos and Mikdash, or Shabbos and Mishkan, the tabernacle, that's why those 2 ideas always have to be linked together. So if one has been destroyed, if there's been a Churban in one, that means that there's been a Churban in the other. And that takes some deep self-reflection. What do you mean that there's a Churban in Shabbos? Shabbos' light has been diminished. That's what it means. We don't experience Shabbos fully the way we ought to. We're in Galus. How can we possibly say that we experience Shabbos the way we're supposed to? We have to be realistic, understand the situation we're in. It shouldn't depress us. There is no Yeush, right? Ba'olam Kalal, as Rebbe Nachman says, there's no despair in the world at all. But that doesn't mean just because there's no despair that we walk around and bury our head in the sand. It means that we need to understand our situation, understand the matzav, know where we are holding, and then work on reversing it, doing something to improve it. Otherwise, you're just walking around, blind and ignorant. We may as well be blind and not ignorant. That's at least a step in the right direction. All right, so let's go back to this statement that Shabbos is the illumination of the Beit Ha-Mikdash, and the Beit Ha-Mikdash is the eyes. Let's go on. Like it says, there's an open pasuk in Yechezkel, the prophet. What did he say in chapter 24, verse 21? He says, Go'on uzechem, the brilliance of your might. What is the brilliance of our might? And brilliance, again, doesn't just mean like the word is Go'on, which normally you think of like a person who's a genius. But here it means like the brilliance of something, it means like light, illumination. That's why we say that somebody is a Gaon, somebody is a genius, because he has tremendous illumination in his head. So what is it? It's Mahmad Einechem. It is the delight of your eyes. And you go for the rest of the pasuk, you look it up. I'm not going to give you everything tonight. You have a little bit of homework to do. You'll see that the very context of that pasuk is the Beit Ha-Mikdash. So the Mahmad Einechem, the delight of your eyes, is the Beit Ha-Mikdash. So Rabbi Nachman learns, therefore, the Beit Ha-Mikdash is our eyes. That's why it's a delight for our eyes. It is our eyes. Even deeper than just the delight of our eyes. It is our eyes, mamash. And then he says, see Baba Batra, page 4a, and you can go and you can look into that more on your own. I put the reference in, so if you want to look it up on your own later, you can do so. So now we've seen a couple things. One, we've seen that the eyes relate to the temple, to the Beit Ha-Mikdash, and also the eyes relate to Shabbat. Now, let's go to the next idea to tie this in, because this is a very intricately woven Torah that Rebbe Nachman paints for us. It's not all just like plain, if you just read it like you're reading a book, you're really going to miss it. You're not going to really, chop it too easily. So I'm just trying to give you some of the main points so that when you do learn it on your own, B'ezrat Hashem, you'll be able to grasp more fully what Rebbe Nachman is actually telling us in this Torah. Let's go on. Ki yesh tzaddik. Now, as we said before, if there's one common theme that passes throughout literally almost every single page in Likutei Moharan, in every aspect of Rebbe Nachman's teachings, it is the importance of the tzaddik, the righteous soul, the one who is the foundation of the world, right? This is an important idea in Breslov teaching, not just Breslov teaching, but it emerges in other areas as well. But certainly Rebbe Nachman really put his finger on it and literally wouldn't let it go. Held on to that idea so strongly that literally it becomes almost, you might say, the main hub in the wheel that he's creating through all of his Torahs. There's spokes and there's this like hub in the middle. And it almost seems to me that the idea of the tzaddik is the hub. It's what holds all of his Torahs together. So he says here that there is such a thing as the tzaddik. Who is this tzaddik? What is he like? Well, let's see. He is the yofi and the pe'er and the chen of the whole world. Now, what do these words mean? Yofi means like, the beauty, and the pe'er is, you might call it the splendor, and chen is the grace of the whole world. There is a single individual, one soul, that's literally the light of the whole world. And that person, that soul, is called the tzaddik. When this soul, when this tzaddik, this beauty and this splendor is revealed in the world, what happens? Well, you can imagine. When this tzaddik, when he is the beauty of the whole world, nit parseim, when he is, quote, published, meaning that when his fame spreads abroad, and he becomes known in a positive way throughout the world, v'nit gadel ba'olam, and when he is enhanced and he grows in stature in the eyes of the whole world, azai niftachim ha'einayim shel olam, then the eyes of the whole world, not just the Jewish people, the eyes of the whole world get opened. So we should see, if we're thinking carefully, therefore, that the tzaddik is an aspect of Shabbos. Because the Shabbos itself is the light of the Beit Ha-Mikdash. And he's just telling us right here that the tzaddik is also the light of the world, which is the light of the Beit Ha-Mikdash. And so if you actually read Rabbi Nachman here closely, you'll see, he in fact brings that point out explicitly. And it's a quote actually from the Zohar, that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the Zohar explicitly says that the tzaddik is Shabbos. Wow, what an idea. So that's another idea. We've written a little bit about it on our website. You can search the articles there for, Tzaddik and Shabbos. You'll probably find the article where we wrote about it. But this is exactly what Rebbe Nachman's talking about here. He's explaining that Shabbos and the Tzaddik are literally one and the same thing. So if one is the light, then the other one is the light. What do they illuminate? They illuminate the Beit Ha-Mikdash. And that gives light to the world. And so we also see, therefore, that the Tzaddik opens our eyes. Without the Tzaddik, we're a little bit more, again, we're blind. That's what we said in the beginning. We're blind without the Tzaddik. We may know a lot of Torah. We may have all of Shas memorized. We may have all of Zohar memorized. There's all these nice little videos going out these days about how AI has no heart. And it's true. AI has no heart. It's got a lot of knowledge, which is great. And so it's a tool you can use, but it doesn't have heart. It's not a human being. It has no soul. Hashem wants our soul. He wants our heart. So we can learn all the Torah in the world we want to. Become just as brilliant as like AI, like a massive database of all of Torah. But if we don't have heart, if we don't have soul, if we don't have light, if we don't have vision, sight, if we don't have the tzaddik, we're like an artificial intelligence. We're like an AI walking around with legs. And that's not what Hashem wants. Let's go to the next bit. Because Rebbe Nachman is going to develop this idea of the tzaddik even more clearly. And again, this comes from the Zohar. It actually comes from the Tikkun Zohar, the third Tikkun there on page 18. You can, again, if you can read the Zohar, if you have the volumes of the Zohar, you can read on your own. If not, this is the idea. It's not something that is innovative in Rebbe Nachman, but it comes from the Zohar. What does he say? The word Bereshit. If you actually look into the Tikkun Zohar, you'll see that the entire book called the Tikkun Zohar, this is not like the Zohar, and people think just the Zohar, like the main Zohar, but there's a subsection of the Zohar called the Tikkun Zohar, the rectifications of the Zohar. And there's 70 chapters, and each one of those chapters, which is called a Tikkun, each single one of them expounds and develops an entire deep Torah on the word Bereshit. That's what the Tikkun Zohar is all about. And it's very deep. It's certainly, when people talk about the Zohar, and they talk about Kabbalah, like real serious Kabbalah, they're talking for the most part about the Tikkun Zohar. Now, so one of the teachings there by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the Tikkun Zohar is that the word Bereshit, if you rearrange the letters, you can spell two words. What you're going to say? Let's read it now inside Rebbe Nachman. This idea of the tzaddik, he is an aspect of the word Bereshit. Not just the word Bereshit, but the whole essence of the beginning. What does he mean? Let's rearrange the word Bereshit. We can spell the word Rosh Bayit. Rosh Bayit means the head of the house. The boss. The Baal Habayis, we say in Ashkenaziville. Right? That's what he is. The tzaddik is the Rosh Bayit. He's the head of the house. So what's the Bayit? The Bayit is clearly the Beit Ha-Mikdash. This is what Rebbe Nachman is trying to tell us. So who is the, quote, head, the Rosh of the Beit Ha-Mikdash? It's the tzaddik. It's the exact same idea we just saw about Shabbos being the light of the Beit Ha-Mikdash. He's now just saying the exact same thing about the tzaddik, but looking at it from a different angle. Looking at it now from the Tikkun Zohar, which talks about Bereshit being Rosh Bayit, and the head of the Bayit is the head of the Beit Ha-Mikdash, is this tzaddik. He's the head. Rosh ze bechinat mochin. Mochin means the brain. It doesn't mean like your what do you call it? Your cerebrum. It means your spiritual brains. It means chokhmah and bina and dat. That's what it primarily means. It means something that's truly spiritual. It doesn't mean you can, like I said a minute ago, you can learn all of Shas and still have no brains. I don't mean that to insult anybody, but it's true. AI, L'chora knows all of Shas. It messes up sometimes, but generally speaking, it's not so bad. You gotta, you have to be on top of it. But the point is that AI is not a tzaddik. AI is not a tzaddik, but it knows a lot of Torah. It has no like real spiritual brains. It has knowledge, but it has no real mochin. So the same thing with people. We can learn all of Shas, but have no mochin. Chas v'shalom. But why? Because what do you need? You need the Tzaddik. That's what he keeps telling us. Without the Tzaddik, you're just learning Shas. You're learning biology or chemistry. My favorite two subjects that I always talk about. Music, I suppose I could also talk about, but because I studied those subjects for many decades. Beit Zeh B'chinat Beit Ha-Mikdash. So he tells you straight out that the Beit, the house, is an aspect of the Beit Ha-Mikdash. V'azai yesh balabai. So now there is this balabait. There is this owner of the Beit Ha-Mikdash. There is somebody who owns it. Who's in charge of it? Who's the head of it? B'chinat rosh bait. This is this aspect of Bereshit. Shehu mechazek bitkei habayit. He's in charge of repairing the Beit Ha-Mikdash. Right? Bedek habayit, right? Bedek habayit is a phrase you see throughout Shas and in certain sugyas to talk about donations that go to the Beit Ha-Mikdash in order to, so there's money there to be able to repair and restore and, do all the necessary renovations from time to time to keep it in good shape. That's what's called Bedek habayit. So that's what he says here. He says here that the role of the tzaddik, who is the Baal habayit, it's his job. Of course, it's if you live in a house, you own it. Let's say you don't pay any rent anymore or any mortgage, you own it. So if it goes something, the walls falls down and the paint peels, who's responsible for it? You're gonna call your friend up and say, hey buddy, look, my wall needs a paint job. He's gonna look at you like, you need a paint job. See? So no, it's your responsibility, it's your house. That's what he's saying here. That whose house is it? It's the tzaddik's house. And this is a little bit peculiar for a lot of people. They say this is very strange to people, but this is straight out of our Torah. And therefore, it is the tzaddik's responsibility to fix it and to repair it. Now, right now, you might say he's doing a lousy job because it's in ruins. Yes, it is in ruins. He is in ruins. It's not he. It is in ruins. But the point is that the tzaddik is working right now, this very moment, at repairing and rebuilding the Beit Ha-Mikdash. How? Through his teachings. Through his teachings. We're going to get more detail about that in a little bit. But it doesn't happen with your eyes. The Beit Ha-Mikdash is like your eyes, your physical eyes. It happens to your spiritual eyes. It happens to your spiritual vision. It's the vision of the Jewish people, of each and every Jew that needs to be restored. When the vision of each and every Jew is restored, then the Beit Ha-Mikdash will poof, it'll appear. Remember, we said earlier, it's not about politics. It's not about, construction plans. It's not about trying to force something on the top of Har Bayit. It's not about getting all woofly-waffly about the Arabs and about the Dome of the Rock and trying to blow it up. And it's nothing about that. Nothing. Zero. Zilcho. We say zippo the hippo. It has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with the fact that we're blind. If we were to become have good eyes again and we could see again, then poof, the Beit Ha-Mikdash would be built. This is what the tzaddik is working on. He's working on restoring spiritual vision to the Jewish people. Let's go on. Ki Tikkun Beit Ha-Mikdash hu al yidei zeh. This is how the tikkun, the reparation, the fixing of the Beit Ha-Mikdash is going to take place. It's going to take place through the tzaddik, whose job is to repair it. And what is the main reparation? Light. It's light. Because when there was light, the Beit Ha-Mikdash stood. And when we abandoned Shabbos primarily, and Hashem along with that, and a lot of other issues, and we started to hate each other, and so on and so on and so on, the light was diminished, we became blind, and therefore the other forces of a fire took over, and the Beit Ha-Mikdash, physically speaking, was destroyed. Now let's focus a little bit about a fire, a flame. What is a flame? Well, I'm not going to get into the science of a flame. That's a very interesting subject in and of itself. But practically speaking, it'd be very simple. What do I mean? There's two major aspects to a flame. There's what we call heat, or fire itself, and light. And they have two completely different functions. So this aspect, now Rabbi Nachman is going to bring out, again, ideas from the Zohar that he's now bringing out and putting into focus and telling us this is the real essence of what happened to the Beit Ha-Mikdash. Let's read what he says inside. V'yesh me'orei or u'me'orei eish. There are illuminations of light, or, and there are illuminations of fire. All right, that's like a flame. There's fire and there's light. V'hem zeh lumat zeh. And this one is opposite that one. What does he mean this one's opposite that one? Let's go on. What does it mean this one is opposite that one? Shekshiyesh koach limore or, when there is power and strength to the illuminations of or, azai nichna'in moresh, then the illuminations of fire are subdued, are supplanted, are put down. That's what he means by this is opposite that one. It's like a seesaw, or it's like Esav and Yaakov. When one goes up, the other one goes down. So when the illuminations of or, when Me'ore or are increased, are enhanced, then automatically the Me'ore Eish, the illuminations of fire, are diminished, and vice versa. Chas v'shalom, when the illuminations of fire are enhanced, correspondingly the illuminations of light, of seichel, of hasaga, those are correspondingly diminished. Let's see more what he says, because he's going to spell it out. It's not my words. Let's go and see what he says. V'chein lefek. He says, and also the other way around, which is what I just said. Chas v'shalom. Kishenichnain v'nis talakin more or, when the illuminations of light are subdued or are removed, they like go away. Chas v'shalom. Azai mitgabrim moresh. Then that's the time when the illuminations of fire are enhanced, are strengthened. And then we don't want that. V'zeh b'chinat Churban Beit Ha-Mikdash. This is the essence of the destruction of the Beit Ha-Mikdash. In simple terms, what does he mean, the illuminations of light? Well, he's just been telling us a whole bunch of them. The primary illumination of light is the Shechinah herself. But in addition to that, he's also telling us that there's other aspects to this illuminations of or, because the phrase is me'ore or, not just me'or or. It's not just the illumination singular of light, it's the me'ore or, it's the illuminations plural of light. So yes, the Shechinah is the main illumination of or, but there's also, we just saw, you should be able to at least tell me two other ones right off the bat. Number one, Shabbos. Number two, the Tzaddik. And you read through this whole Torah in Likutei Moharan yourself, if you're able to, if you're zochid being able to learn on your own, you'll see that also there's other aspects as well, like tefillin, for example, which is also connected to this as well, but we can only look at different pieces of this. But fundamentally, the main ones that I want to focus on for us today is Shabbos and Tzaddik and Shechinah. They're all aspects, one and the same thing. They are the Me'ore or. They're the illuminations of light. And so when those things are enhanced, then the Beit Ha-Mikdash is rebuilt and stands. And when those things, chas v'shalom, are diminished or hidden or mocked or ignored, then chas v'shalom, the Beit Ha-Mikdash cannot stand, because they are the light of the Beit Ha-Mikdash. They are the forces that repair it and rebuild it. So if those forces are subdued and pushed down, then they can't do the job. And so the Beit Ha-Mikdash stands in ruins still. So that is the Me'ore or. What is the Me'ore Eish? What are the illuminations of fire? Well, it's primarily din, judgments, gezerot, right? Decrees against us and against the whole world. Wars, famines, floods, go on, you can name them all. Killings, murderings, pogroms, massacres. These are the Me'ore Eish, the illuminations of fire. And they both come from the flame. They're both aspects of a flame. The real job of a Jew, though, is to turn the Me'ore Eish into Kedusha. That instead of things burning, the Jew burns. Not like the Shoah kind of burning, but the Jew burns with fire for Hashem. He burns inside with fire for his holy Torah. That's the Tikkun for the actually Me'ore Eish. But again, that's another subject. We can't cover everything all at once. Now we're going to get to the main point of what Rebbe Nachman is trying to tell us, which is, what do we do about it? I mean, it's not very nice. It's very nice, Torah, or it's very nice learning. It's very beautiful ideas. Wow, deep stuff. And if you can grasp it, awesome. But, okay, now, Hoshea, what am I supposed to do about it? Like, practically speaking, what do I do now? So this is what Rebbe Nachman is going to tell us, exactly what we can do. Let's read the bottom. He says the following, V'hinei ma she'avar ein. Which means that which has passed away doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. Yesterday's gone. Doesn't exist. There is no existence of yesterday. All that there is, and there's no existence of tomorrow. There's only now. This is a separate point. you want to walk away with something really useful in your own personal life, is learn these 4 words. V'hinei mashavar ayin. That which is past is it doesn't exist. And as a separate point, a lot of people beat themselves up, right, about their past. Oh, I did this. Oh, I did this. Oh, I did this. It's not effective. It's not useful. It's not practical. Why? Because what you did, that which had passed into that which is in the past doesn't exist. Acknowledge it, do tshuva on it, and move on. Don't continue to live in the past. So if that's the case, if this is what Rebbe Nachman is telling us, the past doesn't exist, then what are we doing mourning on Tisha B'Av? This is Rebbe Nachman's implied question. Because if the Beit Ha-Mikdash doesn't exist, and apparently it doesn't, it does in a spiritual world, but physically speaking, it's not there on Har Bayit right now. So since it's not there, it doesn't exist. Yesterday is gone. Then what are we mourning? Not just what are we mourning, but why are we mourning? So let's see his answer. First of all, he says, Ki kavar nisraf beit mikdashenu, because our temple has already been burned. It's not like it's burning right now, and therefore we should be actively engaged in something so we prevent it from burning all the way down. It's gone. It burned all the way down to the ground. It's not going to help to bring the fire trucks now. It's gone. Ka'et. However, right now, even though it doesn't exist, and even though what happened is over, it's gone, it doesn't exist, it's finished, it's past from existence. Even now, he says, next page, Hashem yiprach mitzapeh lashuv elenu. Hashem himself anticipates and looks forward to returning to us, v'lachazor, and to come back, v'liv not Beit Mikdashenu, and to build the temple, our temple. Hashem is looking forward to it. The question is, how much are we looking forward to it? Well, we're going to find a way to assess that in a second. Ro'ui lano, here it is here. Ro'ui lano, it is fitting for us, it is proper for us, shelo la'akev, that we not obstruct Hashem's desire and the fact that he wants to do this. We shouldn't get in his way. We shouldn't be an obstacle to Hashem. You say, well, I'm not an obstacle to Hashem. Well, maybe he is, but I'm not. Well, let's see. He said, we should not become an obstacle or an obstruction to get in the way of the binyan Beit Ha-Mikdash and the building of the Beit Ha-Mikdash. Rak lish tadel bevinyano. We should do all of our best effort. Really try hard to build it. Okay, good. I'm all with you right now. I'm focused. Hoshea, I'm with you the whole time. Great. I want it. Yeah. How do I help build it? Alkain me'od. Alkain me'od tzarich lizaher lakum b'chatzot. Oh. Therefore, one really needs to be very careful to wake up and get out of bed at midnight. That's what he says. Lihiyot mitabel al Churban Beit Ha-Mikdash. To mourn for the destruction of the Beit Ha-Mikdash. Ki ulai, maybe, just might be, because who's to say? But Gilgul Harishon, Hayahu Hagorem Sheyecharav HaBeit Ha-Mikdash. It could be that in a previous, incarnation of yourself or myself, that we were the cause for the destruction of the Beit Ha-Mikdash. Maybe it was my fault in a previous lifetime. Maybe I was there back then in that year, and I was one of those people that was like centrally involved in all the sins that Hashem just said enough is enough. Maybe I was the one that caused it. And if that's true, now I got to be serious about trying to fix it. Now, how do I know? You don't know. I suppose you could go ask a Tzaddik who really has that kind of Ruach HaKodesh, and if you've got the gumption to ask him, and maybe he'll tell you, maybe he won't tell you. But Rebbe Nachman says, maybe you were such a person. And then he says, Va'afil in love, and even if you're not, even if you weren't such a person in a previous Gilgul. Maybe you're obstructing things now. Binyan Beit Ha-Mikdash, the building of the Beit Ha-Mikdash. Maybe you're getting in the way now. Maybe you're preventing it from being rebuilt now. So, v'nechshav gamken iluhu garam lahacharivo, and therefore you would be considered right now like somebody who's actually causing its destruction. Because if the Beit Ha-Mikdash were to be totally rebuilt today, right now, it would just be destroyed right now. Chas v'shalom, but that's why it's not here, because we would destroy it again. This is a deep idea. It's very troubling to all people. You know, truth hurts sometimes. But it's true. So this is the one actual physical thing that Rebbe Nachman says to do in this entire Torah that will show Hashem that we're serious about wanting to rebuild the Beit Ha-Mikdash. Getting up for Chatzot. And by implication, going through the entire, quote, liturgy, right, of Tikkun Leah and Tikkun Rachel. Now, as a side point, before we just finish up here, after Shabbos is Tisha B'Av. If you've never gotten up for Chatzot before, and you're always like, oh man, I can't get up for Chatzot. Remember, it's 6 hours after Tzeit, HaKochavim, according to Rabbi Nachman. So these days, it's around 2 o'clock in the morning. So you get to bed and get up. If all you do is once a year is to get up for Chatzot, please do it on Tisha B'Av. Because of all the days in the year, this is the one day where you're showing Hashem, listen, I know I'm weak, and I got a job, and I can't, and blah, blah, blah. I know it's not easy. I'm not criticizing anybody. It's a hard avoda. But at least one day of the year, set your alarm, 15 minutes before Chatzot, and get up. Force yourself up. Take your siddur, and if you don't have a siddur with the actual, Tikkun Chatzot in it, go online, I don't care. Find it, get it, and go through it. And by that action, you will show Hashem you really do care. You really do want the Beit Ha-Mikdash being rebuilt. This is what Rebbe Nachman is telling us. Last paragraph. V'Hashem Yibarach hivtiach l'chol hamitabel al Tzion. Hashem promises. You want to say, why do I need to do this, Hoshea? Come on, you're asking me too much. I mean, I don't mind listening to every once in a while you want to talk about Emunah. That's great. But you want to talk to me about getting out for Chatzot? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm going to tune in next week. Listen to what Hashem promises. Hashem promises to everybody who mourns about Zion, meaning Har Bayit, Lasum la'avalet Zion pe'er tachat efer. At the very beginning of Tikkun Chatzot, we take a little bit of ash and we put it right there, the place of our tefillin, right there. And what do we say when we put the ash right there, the place of our tefillin, before we start Tikkun Rachel? What do we say? We say this pasuk, Lasum la'avalet Zion pe'er tachat efer. That Hashem would instead of the afer, instead of the ash, Hashem would give to those who are mourning over Zion, He would give to them splendor. That Hashem would turn the ash to splendor. And you know what? It's at the place of our tefillin, which is our mourning, which is what we've already talked about, which is what we lost. That's what we've lost. We've lost our mourning. That's the spiritual blindness that we're all in a state of spiritual blindness. So by putting the ash right there at the spot of our tefillin, we're telling Hashem we care about our spiritual blind state. And Hashem says, to you, I'm going to let you see the consolation of Yerushalayim. It's a pasuk in Yeshayahu, in Isaiah chapter 61, verse 3. Pe'er tachat efer. That's what it says right there. Pe'er tachat efer. Splendor instead of ashes. Daika. Like specifically that's what it means. Pe'er. What is the pe'er? What is the splendor? It's what we've been talking about, right? What is the splendor? It is the aspect of... Actually, I deleted some of the accidentally from notes. I apologize for that. It is the aspect of the Rosh Bait, which is the head of the house. Who is the Tzaddik? Bichanat Ma'ori Or, which is the aspect of all of these illuminations like Shabbos and Tefillin and everything else we've been talking about. Bichanat Shabbos, it's an aspect of Shabbos. HaMe'er LeBeit Ha-Mikdash, the Shabbos gives light to the Beit Ha-Mikdash. We saw that already. That's Pe'er, that's the splendor. That's what Hashem takes pride in. He takes pride in us when we really are connected to these things fully and completely. You can't just say, "Oh, I keep Shabbos. I don't violate Shabbos, but I'm like cholek on the Tzaddik." It doesn't work, folks. It doesn't work. And then the other part of the puzzle is tachat efer instead of ashes. What's the ashes? Ashes is the fire. Efer zeh bechinat mor eish. So the whole pasuk that Hashem is going to give to those who are mourning, the mourners of Tzion, He's going to give them pe'er instead of efer. It's what it means. He's going to give them me'ore, or He's going to give them the illuminations of light instead of the me'ore eish, instead of the illuminations of fire. There's a whole lot more to this Torah than I've just been able to give you tonight. And it's almost an hour now anyway, 50 minutes. But hopefully it's been helpful. I've written down here for you some questions for discussion. If you want to stick around a little bit after the class is officially over, we can go through some of these questions and talk about it if you want to have a little bit of a discussion. And if you go away, that's fine too. Use these questions I have down here for your own edification. If you want to do it collectively, we can do that. But certainly on Tisha B'Av. Take this out on Tisha B'Av and go through these questions and think about them and see how they can apply to you in your own personal life. B'ezrat Hashem, we won't have to sit on the floor anymore. We won't have to put ashes on our foreheads anymore. B'ezrat Hashem, the Tzaddik's light will shine in the world. The light of Shabbos will shine in the world. And Hashem will see that we're truly worthy in the merit of the Tzaddik and in the merit of Shabbos and the merit of the Shechinah. Rachel will no longer need to cry anymore because her children will finally have returned in Tshuva Shlema. B'imheira v'yameinu amen. Selah.